Welcome to episode 39 of the 411, folks. My name is Scott and I am here by myself. Jake is not with me, he's at work unfortunately. So I'm taking this solo. This is my second solo episode actually. I'm recording this on Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we are exactly 24 hours out from the Nintendo Switch presentation, which is held tomorrow. So I'm really excited, getting really excited for the Switch presentation. I'm really keen to find out what it's all about. Everybody's really keen to actually find out what the launch lineup is going to be. We don't really even know if we're going to find out what the launch lineup is tomorrow, but that's sort of what's expected. And I mean, they've already given us a trailer of what the console looks like, the name of it, what it can do. So everybody mostly knows what it's about. I guess the conversation then turns to what games come with it. There's questions around price as well, so that might be announced tomorrow. So really, the big questions are price and games, the launch lineup. Another major question is third-party titles. What will be coming to the Switch that we already have on Xbox and PlayStation? Are we going to have the big titles like the new Assassin's Creed that's coming, the new Mass Effect, the FIFA games, all those games that, are really console sellers? Are we going to have those brought to the Switch? Because really, any game that gets brought over to the Switch, we could honestly say that it is a handheld experience. So nobody's ever played titles like Mass Effect or Call of Duty on the handheld. So if Switch does have those things, then that's really a console seller for them. This episode, I do want to talk about my hopes and dreams for the Nintendo Switch just, before I watch the presentation. I really want to make a few predictions about what I think is going to happen and really talk about the things that I want to happen most of all. But this is an actual episode of the 411, folks, so we are going to start, I am going to start off like I usually do, and that is with what I've been playing. And I haven't really been playing a lot this week. I have been getting into a few sport titles. There's always a sport title to go with a bunch of other games, but the sport titles that have been playing is Don Bradman Cricket 17, of course. But I actually have put that down recently because of the constant crashing that game has done. It's really giving me the shits, actually. So every single time I try to get into my career mode, it just crashes. So I had to start a new career mode. And that really wasn't as enjoyable just because I'd gone so in-depth with my other career. So I've kind of put that down for now. But I've picked up another sporting title, which is FIFA 15. It's a classic, I know. My brother, who lives just across the hall from me, has FIFA 16 and FIFA 17. And he's calling me an idiot. Why didn't I just install 16 or 17 onto my Xbox? Well, really, I couldn't give a shit. The teams that I play with, I don't really know any of the players anyway, so I kind of guess I can just imagine that they do play in the 2017 rosters. I don't really care. FIFA is still a great game, regardless of the number behind it. So FIFA 15, I'm having a lot of fun with that at the moment. Pokemon Sun, I'm still continuing with that. I really haven't got too far into it. Last week I was talking with Jake and I said I was about 10 hours through it. I think I'm about 13 hours through it now. So about 3 hours this week. I haven't really sat down for one of those really long marathon sessions with Pokemon. I'm sure I'll get there soon, but no, I play maybe 20 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Just turn it on whenever I have just a bit of free time on my hands. Usually before I go to bed, actually. So, but I've just made my way onto the second island, and I've started exploring that now. I've caught a new Pokemon, which is Lillipup. That's my first Pokemon caught on the new island. And I still only have 7 Pokemon. Last time I told you guys that I had 6 Pokemon. So Lillipup has made it into my party and he's taken out Munchlax. So now all 6 Pokemon in my party have now been caught in the game. Munchlax, of course, was a gift Pokemon, which I don't know if it's still available, but you all should get it. My Munchlax actually has evolved into a Snorlax now, but and my, I think it's a Litten, has evolved into Torracat, and my Pichu is now a Pikachu. So yeah, pretty cool. One of my complaints with the game actually is that, and I said this in a previous episode, one of my hopes and dreams for the Pokemon game would be that all Pokemon have voiced characters like they do in the anime. So Pokemon usually just say their first names, but the only one in the game who does that is Pikachu, which is kind of frustrating. So, and the only reason Pikachu is the only one in the game who does that is because of its popularity in the anime. I know that sometimes the game really doesn't want to take things from the anime because it's the anime that takes things from the game, but Pikachu is your only voiced character in the game, so you kind of have taken that from the anime. The anime kind of gave life and voices to these characters that the game had created, so really I don't see why they can't just work in conjunction with each other and have every Pokemon voiced, but maybe that is something that is coming to the Switch when we get a Pokemon game eventually for the big screen. What has caught my eye this week? Well, shit all really, because Jake and I started this podcast a year ago back in late February, so we haven't recorded episodes in January before, and I didn't realize that there's really nothing that goes on in early January, or even late December really. I mean, late December you're pretty lucky with lots of episodes about Game of the Year, that kind of thing. Early January you can get away with doing most anticipated games of 2017, which we've already done. But early January episodes, you're really scraping the barrel to find some kind of news or interesting topics to talk about. So we're kind of lucky that we've got Nintendo Switch coming out soon, so we can spend a few episodes talking about that. But there has been one thing that has really caught my eye this week, and it is kind of Nintendo related. It's a Super Retro Boy that's coming to stores in August this year. Now, if you didn't know, Super Retro Boy is a little Game Boy kind of thing that's made by a company called Retro Bit or something. I don't know. It's got the word retro in it. I know that. Or it might be called Retro Boy, the company. Not sure. But anyway, the Game Boy, the handheld Game Boy itself is called Super Retro Boy, and really, it is a physical emulator of all the old handheld games, like from the Game Boy Advance. If you still have all those cartridges from when you were younger, you can now use them again with this machine that lets you play all your Game Boy games, all your Game Boy Advance games, and that goes as well with all the SP games, the Game Boy Color games, all the stuff from that those generations. You can just slot into your Retro Boy. So this is a really cool thing to get behind, and I'm actually surprised that Nintendo has let this thing come out, because usually they kind of shut these things down straight away. I mean, we've spoken about stories on this show before about Nintendo shutting down this book that some company wanted to make about all of Nintendo's old games, but because it didn't have Nintendo's logo on it or something, they kind of shut that project down. We've all heard the story about the Pokemon fan-made game that was shut down recently. Yeah, Nintendo really doesn't like other companies taking advantage of Nintendo's properties at all. But Super Retro Boy, I guess they kind of liked the idea that people were able to get their old game cartridges out and put them back in, which is kind of weird, because I was sort of expecting Nintendo to be keeping these old cartridge games away from people in a way. There's not really many ways for people to be able to play these games at the moment unless you have one of those old consoles, which is kind of works for them, because if they're hanging out on an old franchise that they haven't put out in many years, and there's no way for people to play it until they bring it to the Nintendo Switch, then I kind of think that that's what brings people in to buy this new game, because they haven't seen it in so long. But if this Super Retro Boy comes out, people can play those old games, and then there won't be really this desire to get back into that old franchise anymore. But I will talk about that later. I'm going to be bringing up topics such as old Nintendo franchises that should be brought back. But this Super Retro Boy looks really cool, and I'm kind of wishing I had some old cartridges that I could slot into the game. So because I don't have any, that's probably why I'm not really I don't think I'm going to get it at all. But I'm sure Jake, he has quite a lot of Game Boy Advance and SP games that he can make use of. The cool thing about this one, though, is it looks exactly like one of the original Game Boys. I think it's a little smaller, a lot lighter from what I've heard. I mean, I haven't held one myself, but I've been checking out a few videos of people talking about it. And the biggest thing is this thing has a backlit screen, which is something that was missing from the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance. And I think the first backlit screen from a Nintendo handheld console was the Game Boy SP. Or that might not have even had a backlit screen then. But yeah, I remember back in the day it was really difficult to see what you were playing, especially in a kind of a dark room or a darko room, especially in the sun. If you were outside trying to play that thing, there was no point doing that at all. So this is really cool that it actually has a backlit screen, and then you can, it's really amazing that it's made it possible to play all these old cartridges again with with the backlit screen. So that's really cool. So yeah, Super Retro Boy coming out in August this year. That's something to look out for. Usually we would get into some water cooler conversations right about now, but Jake's not here, so he has no water cooler conversation. He's probably eavesdropping in on one right now as we speak, preparing for next week's episode, but we won't get that scoop until next time. So we're going to skip that segment. We're going to go straight into the topic, and that is my hopes and dreams for the Nintendo Switch. As I said before, we are literally just under 24 hours away from the Nintendo Switch presentation, and I'm not sure if it's live or not, or if it's one of those Nintendo Direct videos, but I'm kind of hoping it is a Nintendo Direct video, because I really love watching those videos. They're really well done. So Nintendo hopes and dreams. The first little thing I'm going to talk about is bringing back old franchises. Now, Nintendo, we've just had the Wii U, and they've had quite a lot of games that have come out that have been really successful. We've got Mario Kart 8, Splatoon is a new one. We've had Donkey Kong Country that's made a return. We've had quite a lot of things, new ones and things that have come back, but there are quite a few games that have never came out on the Wii U that people were sort of waiting for. And I've just made a list of games that they should bring back to Nintendo Switch. The biggest one on my list is actually F-Zero X. Now, the closest thing we got to F-Zero X on the Wii U was, what is it called? It's not made by the same people, but it doesn't even have the same name. It's got some really weird name. I'm sure most people would know what I'm talking about, but it's a really fast-paced, futuristic jet-style racing game that you do go on the road. You're levitating above the road. So pretty much exactly the same as F-Zero, but it's a lot faster. It's a lot more difficult as well. I know F-Zero was pretty difficult, but I think it had difficulty levels in a way, with the different kind of courses that you drove on. But yeah, they really need to bring F-Zero back as a franchise, because it is a massive name, and it would be a big seller, because people do miss that game. There was F-Zero on the Super Nintendo, there was F-Zero X on the Nintendo 64, F-Zero GX on the GameCube, I'm pretty sure. There might have been another one, I'm not sure, but those are the three that I know. And I never played GX, but from what I hear, it was a lot better than X. Like, they just kept getting better with each console that got brought out. And I guess, yeah, Wii skipped it, and Wii U have skipped it as well. So it's been missing from 2 generations now, and a lot of people are asking for that one to come back. So I think if they do bring that back, I'm not saying it's going to be a launch title or anything, but maybe within the first few years, that'll get some people on board to really consider buying the Switch. Another game on my list is Metroid Prime. Now, Metroid Prime is a game that I have not played, or a franchise that I have not invested time into, but I know Jake is a massive fan. He's played all 3 of the Metroid Prime games, and he was one of the ones who were a little disappointed when Federation Force was announced and not Prime 4. But we were pretty adamant on this show that we did support the Federation Force game, and we kind of just thought that Prime 4 is coming. Federation Force is just a game that, it's just kind of a little spin-off game that we just have to, it's just there to play while you wait for Prime 4, But people, I guess, took it a little too seriously and just went really negative on that one, when there was really no point, I guess. Metroid Prime 4, I guess, it's got to be coming soon. There's so much demand for that game, and Nintendo for sure know it now. So that's a game that's got to be coming on the way, and I don't care when in the life cycle of Switch that it comes out. I just hope that Nintendo Switch does get a Metroid Prime game, just to add that franchise to its list of games. Diddy Kong Racing is another one that I'd love for it to come back. I got into Diddy Kong Racing very, very late. And what I mean by that is I never played it on an N64. I played it on an N64 emulator. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I got to say, I really enjoyed the game. And I had no idea that is where Banjo-Kazooie was from. And there were, a Conker was in that game as well. And that's where those characters came from. So originally, I think they had planned to make like their own sort of game for every single character on that roster of the Diddy Kong Racing game, but that never came about. It was only the Banjo and Conker that got their own games, and both of them turned out to be huge successes. So I don't really know why they stopped. Nintendo 64 was the generation of those 3D platforming games, and they could have done a lot more with that roster of Diddy Kong Racing characters. Because I don't think we ever saw those characters again. I'm not sure about Diddy Kong Racing, the DS game. I never played that one. Those characters might have made a return in that game, but I think that is it. So I'm really looking forward to a return for Diddy Kong Racing. Mostly, I'm looking forward to some HD Diddy Kong Racing. Because I know Diddy Kong Racing on the N64 was lots of different lush, tropical, Donkey Kong environments, jungle environments that I really love seeing. Tropical Freeze was a perfect example of why I would love a Diddy Kong Racing game on a HD console. It's because, Donkey Kong games are beautiful. They do a really good job of those environments, and I think they'd look really good. Especially, there was this, my favorite course from Diddy Kong Racing was the one when you're in the water. I think you're in like a little boat that you're going through. So, yeah, it's really cool. Mario Kart 8 is sort of, it's very, very similar to Diddy Kong Racing. But I guess while people are sort of itching for a new kart racing game, why not just give us maybe a Diddy Kong Racing in the meantime while we wait for Mario Kart 9? Because I know Mario Kart 9 is going to be, a massive seller for Switch, just like Mario Kart 8 was. So I guess really what I'm trying to say is you can put a Diddy Kong Racing game out, just call it Diddy Kong Racing 2. And this is sort of a game to, whet our appetites while waiting for a Mario Party game. The next game on my list that I'd love to see return is Bomberman. Now, I'm not sure if this is a Nintendo exclusive when it was out. I don't know if it was on the PlayStation as well. I do know that it's definitely not an Xbox game, but I'd love to see Bomberman return. We haven't seen a Bomberman game in a very, very long time. The one that I played on 64 was Bomberman Hero. And I just think Bomberman is actually a really cool character. And I think he should really be, celebrated more, especially in the Super Smash games. I'd love to see him come into the games a little. Because Bomberman was a massive franchise in this Nintendo 64 generation. I'm pretty sure there are at least 3 games of that guy. So, yeah, that'd be a cool thing to come back. And I'm sure a lot of people would be excited for that. Donkey Kong 64 is another one on my list. I know we've got Donkey Kong games recently. The Donkey Kong Country franchise has been brought back recently on the 3DS and the Wii U. And the Wii, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it started with the Wii. But I'd love to see Donkey Kong return as a 3D platformer. I know people had massive complaints with the Donkey Kong 64 game, but for some reason it's one of the most popular 64 games ever. This came out pretty much nearly towards the end of the 64 generation, and I guess people were kind of getting a bit sick of the 3D platformers, and I've never played it myself, but I hear it's a big collector fest. lots of things just to collect and tick off your list. Not really much, I think, depth or, put into the game. So, but I'd love to see Donkey Kong 64 be brought back, as maybe just give it a sequel, but done right. I mean, I'm sure everybody's really excited for the ukulele that's going to be coming out, and we haven't had a platformer like that in a long time. We've got the new Super Mario game coming out. That's another 3D platformer. So there's already 2 platformers coming out to the Switch to try and sort of bring back those good old 64 GameCube days that we all miss. So adding Donkey Kong to that list is, I think, would be another big win for the Switch. Mario Party is also on my list, and I know Mario Party has lots of games. I'm pretty sure it's got like 13 games now in its franchise, but I put it on this list because I want a Mario Party game like the original Mario Party game. So Mario Party 1, 2, and 3. They all followed the exact same sort of method and game board and everything and how you play them. I want something like that brought into the Switch. I don't want these other, trying to bring in these new ideas. I mean, I guess the other one that was pretty good was the latest one, which is the what's it called, with the Toad Scramble and everything. I forgot what it's called, but it's the latest 3DS Mario Party game that came out last year. It's not bad, but I would love to see a classic Mario Party game brought to the Nintendo Switch. And I don't know, maybe just reboot the series, just call it Mario Party, and just call it that. I don't know if that's possible, because I know it's up to Mario Party 10 now. I think the next one would be Mario Party 11, but I think the name is kind of tainted now with the numbers behind it, because it's just been getting less and less popular as time goes on. But I definitely know there won't be another Mario Party on the handheld on 3DS anymore, because we've already got 2, which surprised me to begin with that we got 2 on the handheld. But because Switch is also a handheld, I think it'll work really good being brought back to the big screen now. So yeah. Another game on my list is bring back the Disney Pixar games. Disney Pixar was huge to kids back in the day, me being one of them. I remember when we had the Nintendo 64, I was so excited to play those games like Toy Story 2 and A Bug's Life, because I was able to live in those worlds of those characters in those movies that I loved so much. I know Pixar games really aren't what they used to be, and they come out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One now, but I'd really love to see some exclusivity with the Nintendo console on those Disney Pixar games. Even, it doesn't have to be Disney Pixar anymore. You can go take Illuminations games, make a Despicable Me game out of that one. You can take DreamWorks games, do whatever, but bring back these children's franchises, and make it exclusive to your console. So there's heaps of new Pixar movies that have come out, The Good Dinosaur, Inside Out, things that you can make work on a game. And they don't have to be full-priced AAA games like the old ones used to be. You can make little, maybe downloadable games if you want, $10, $15 things, but make them good quality. Don't just put them up there and say that they're available. Make people talk about them. Make people give them good reviews. So it's all about, the quality of how the game's made. The next lot of games that I have on my list, let me see, I've got 6 more games that I want to talk about. And these next lot of games I've never played in my life. But when I'm having conversations with the people, or I'm looking at videos or lists of what people want to see return, these games are things that always come up. So they're hugely popular Nintendo franchises that I always hear about, but I don't really know what they are, or I've never really played them, or I only know them just because of Super Smash Bros. The characters appear in there. So the first one is Punch-Out! Now, whenever people make lists about, the greatest Nintendo games of all time, or games that should be brought back, Punch-Out! Is always on that list. Don't really know how it plays or anything. I don't really know how they can make it work for the newer generation. But Punch-Out! Is a popular name, and with a popular name comes, nostalgic people who want to get back into that. Same goes with the next one on my list, Duck Hunt. I only know Duck Hunt from the Super Smash Bros. Series. But, you know, a lot of people would be just like that. A lot of people would know it just from the Super Smash Bros. Series. And there would be a lot of people who played it when they were kids, who are now adults, who don't even play games anymore. But seeing that name might spark something in them to you know, buy a console just to play a new Duck Hunt game. And I wouldn't like to see them make it, you know, revolutionize the game, because it's been far too long without the game to, I suppose, spark any nostalgia there. You need to make it pretty similar to the original game, just with new HD graphics, I guess. But, you know, it definitely can't be a full price AAA title. It needs to be, you know, a really cheap downloadable game. I suppose that's the same with Punch-Out, I think. Games that, you know, were really popular back in the 80s/90s. I don't really know if it came out in the 90s, but I know it was in the 80s. These games have not been around for far too long to be brought back into, you know, a huge AAA title, for it to be nostalgic, because it just completely changed. Games have changed completely from what they used to be. The next one on my list is Earthbound, which I know is not going to come back, because I've heard about the author of that game, you know, the writer who wrote those games, really does not want to express himself with an Earthbound 4. Even if it did come out, it would be years before we get an English version anyway, so that's really sort of a far-fetch on my list there. But Earthbound is a massive title, especially in Japan, and for that to be brought back in some way, shape or form, it doesn't have to be from that writer, it can be from someone else. You know, you could have an Earthbound Stories, you know, just a spin-off game. It can be just a little game, a little downloadable game. I know I'm really saying that a lot, but, you know, that's what it can be. Game & Watch is another series. I really don't know anything about it, but, you know, it's another big Nintendo name that that could be brought back. Same with Ice Climber. Ice Climber has been one of those Super Smash Bros. Characters that have been in many of those games, but we haven't seen an Ice Climber game, I think, since the original Ice Climber game, which was in the, you know, early 1980s. And I know I'm probably going to get some of these dates wrong, because I wasn't around in the 1980s, but, you know, I'm just trying to prove a point. Golden Sun is another, well, this is the last game on my list, Golden Sun. It's, I think it's a handheld exclusive to the Game Boy Advance, I'm pretty sure. But I know there were 2 sequels, not really sure what console they were on. But another massive Nintendo game that just keeps coming up in these conversations about old franchises that should be brought back. So I guess that list of games there, if all those games were brought back and made, put onto this Nintendo Switch, so they could just say, you know, just in a quick TV commercial or something, and list off all these big titles that they have available. You know, people don't need to know if the game is $90 or it's massive, or it's just a $10 little experience that you can just download. People don't need to know that. It's just the names of these games that will sell consoles, I think. So yeah, just a few ideas there. The next thing I want to talk about for my hopes and dreams of this Nintendo Switch era is the handheld games that are exclusively on a handheld console. Some games that we haven't seen on the big screen for quite some time, and some games we've never seen on the big screen. So first of all, let's talk about the games that we've seen on the big screen before, but it's been quite a while. And of course, with the Nintendo Switch combining the handheld and the living room TV, you can guarantee that all these games are going to be seen on both screen and handheld. So to begin with, we've got Animal Crossing. This game began on the GameCube, which was the big screen, and the 2012 game New Leaf was the last Animal Crossing game to release, and that has been a handheld exclusive. This is the 5th year now that Animal Crossing has been a handheld exclusive. So Animal Crossing returning to the big screen is major, because we've never seen the franchise in HD. And I guess that's the big thing about all these franchises returning to the big screen. A lot of these games we've never seen in HD, so that's what's pretty exciting about it. I know there was huge. There was lots of talk back in the Wii U days. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. That Animal Crossing was coming to Wii U, and we were all kind of expecting a big Animal Crossing game to come to the Wii U during the E3 where they announced Amiibo Crossing. So everyone was a little disappointed there. But I guess they kind of teased it when they released the Animal Crossing homepage menu kind of thing. It was sort of like, I'm not really sure. It's the home screen that was all Animal Crossing. Next game on my list to return to the big screen is Fire Emblem. Now this game, yeah, again started off on the big screen, and it's kind of lived on the handheld since Awakening, I'm pretty sure. So we've had 2 major Fire Emblem games to be brought out on the handheld, and for most people that's kind of where they know it lives, because it really only got some mainstream success from Awakening. I guess that's probably because it was the first Fire Emblem game to, I guess, introduce newcomers by taking a sort of easier approach to the game, and I know that's where I got into it, and that's where it got really popular. So bringing Fire Emblem, the next Fire Emblem game will have to be on the Nintendo Switch. I can't see them bringing out another 3DS Fire Emblem game, but yeah, so that's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that, because it is such a, I don't know, it's one of those RPGs that, you know, is meant for the small screen. I don't really know what they can do to make it look, you know, fit right on the big screen. I guess they're really going to have to update or enhance the battle maps to make them look a lot more realistic. I really wouldn't like to see them change the gameplay in any way, or change how you interact with other people. I really think that's what the beauty about this game is. So I really would like to see that untouched. And I guess the big question is, will we see these 3DS exclusives be cheaper than the Wii U exclusives? You know, these games that are going to be brought to the big screen, are they going to be the same price as games that have always been on the big screen? Because 3DS games right now are cheaper than those bigger games, and I guess it's because they are made on cartridges and they're much smaller. But you know, I guess if games are going to be brought to the same level as each other now, they're going to have to be the same price. So I guess the 3DS games are going to have to, you know, up the standards on graphics, in terms of graphics there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing a much more enhanced version of Fire Emblem. I think we're going to see a much prettier version, I guess. Another one to return would be Luigi's Mansion. Now, we've only got 2 games of this so far, but the latest one is on 3DS. That's Luigi's Mansion 2. And I'm pretty sure it's called Dark Moon in America, because I heard a few people talk about how they want to see Luigi's Mansion 2 brought to Nintendo Switch. Well, in Australia, we already have Luigi's Mansion 2. That is Dark Moon. So I guess if they bring back Luigi's Mansion, it's either going to have to be Luigi's Mansion 3 or Luigi's Mansion, and given another little title there. Which is something that I think they will do instead of putting a number on it, because they kind of confused the system now already. Luigi's Mansion would be awesome on the big screen. We've never seen a HD version of that game, and already it is one of the best looking games on the 3DS, so I can only imagine what it's going to look like on the Switch, so that's going to be really cool. Monster Hunter is another game which originally was on the big screen for a long time, until recently they've brought it to the 3DS. And I think the latest, 3 or 4 games have been 3DS exclusives. So it has been on the handheld for quite a while now, but I'm pretty sure it started off on the PlayStation, and had PlayStation 2 for a while. It was on PSP. But it has been Nintendo 3DS exclusive for quite some years now. So seeing that on the big screen could be a major seller for the Nintendo Switch, just because that game is very Japanese. I think it's still waiting for that Fire Emblem Awakening kind of thing, where you see a large mainstream audience get into this game. I know we've got Monster Hunter Stories coming, and that's kind of more of a cartoon, dumbed down version of the game, I guess. I guess in a way it's a completely different game than Monster Hunter itself, but I would like to see a major mainstream push for Monster Hunter. I know people would probably hate me for saying that, because it is kind of this niche title that that people are into, and I guess, you know, bringing you know, maybe a good idea is to have that Fire Emblem thing where they did release 2 games at the one time, Birthright and Conquest. Maybe give us this whole easy, dumbed-down experience of Monster Hunter for newcomers and mainstreamers to get into. And then they can also give you that really, really hard version of, or the Monster Hunter that people already know. So there could be 2 different styles of games in that way. Because I really, you know, ever since I've seen Monster Hunter, it's always on the top 10 list of 3DS games. You know, it's always on those games that you should have. And I've always really wanted to be able to get into this series, but I know I'm just not going to stick to it because of the difficulty, because of the amount of hours that you're going to have to put into it, the friend base that you should have when you play this game that I just don't have who play Monster Hunter. So I don't know. I think it'll be really good if they do something like Fire Emblem has done to give it that mainstream push. And I really think it could look amazing on the Nintendo Switch, and it could be a console seller if they sort of advertise it right. You know, if they, I guess if it kind of looks like one of those Bethesda-style games on TV commercials. It's all about the way it looks, I guess, to a mainstream audience. Okay, so those are the games, the list of games I had that were originally on a big screen, but we haven't seen on there for a while. The next few games that I'm going to be talking about are games that we've never seen on the big screen. And these games, we're going to see something new with these games. Because we've never seen them on the big screen, they've always relied on that small screen. So they've been able to get away with, you know, not much graphical power. They've been able to get away with things that, you know, you would expect from a handheld experience. Now that they're going to the big screen, I guess there's going to be that kind of expectation that AAA games like Xbox and PlayStation do give you. So one of the games that I've got on the list is Professor Layton. This has always been a handheld experience, and when it's going to be brought to the big screen, I guess, I mean, they say we're not getting any more Professor Layton games, but we're getting Lady Layton, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have more Layton type games in the future. They're not just going to cut off that series because it's too popular just to cut off. And I've always said Professor Layton should be a Super Smash Bros. Character, but maybe we'll see, you know, Lady Layton become even more popular. I'm not sure yet. We haven't seen Lady Layton come out yet. But I think Lady Layton might be the last handheld exclusive because, you know, Layton, like I said, is a massive series, and I definitely think that we will get more Layton games, and we'll eventually see it on the big screen. This game is lucky in a way because it has a very cartoon-based look. So I guess it's kind of easier to do their graphics and everything for HD, a big screen. So yeah, they're lucky in a way. Same with Ace Attorney. We've always seen Ace Attorney on the handheld, but again, they've got a very cartoon anime-based look, which could definitely translate well on the big screen in HD. I think it would be pretty easy to do. Next game on my list is a massive, massive game, huge talking point at the moment, which is Pokemon. A lot of people are expecting Pokemon Stars to be announced. I don't know if this is sort of this code name that people found out about. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked really too far into it, but it's sort of like the Pokemon Yellow of the Pokemon Red and Blue. It's sort of like the Pokemon Platinum of the Diamond and Pearl, that kind of thing. This is the Pokemon Stars of Pokemon Sun and Moon. And people are saying that this is going to be the first Pokemon game to be on the big screen. And it's going to be set in the world of Alola. It's going to be those games just with a lot of added extra features. And I guess one of those big extra features would be how the game looks. I mean, how the game looks right now is, I guess it's using pretty much all of the 3DS's graphical power and energy it can give you. And I'm pretty sure they've maxed that out to the limit. I'm wondering what they can do with the Nintendo Switch, because you know, Game Freak to me have always made their games look really, really good. I love the way, you know, Alpha Sapphire looked. I'm loving the way Pokemon Sun looks. So yeah, I guess this whole topic to me is pretty much about what these games are going to look like on the big screen, because they've got to change something. It can't just be a port of Sun and Moon graphics onto the big screen. Alright, next game is Bravely Default, which is a huge RPG that has really just come out in the past few years. And this is sort of like a Final Fantasy back in the day. They're trying to relive those days because we've just got Bravely Default and Bravely Second, which would be the Final Fantasy 2 of the Final Fantasy. So this game would be really awesome to see on the big screen again, because this is such a handheld experience. I can't really imagine what it would look like, on the big screen. They're going to have to do something, I guess, drastic with this game, because this is a AAA title for the 3DS. If they want to continue this as a AAA title, they need to drastically change some things to make it not look so, I guess, outdated in a way. If they want to continue with the way this game looks, if they want to keep the style of these graphics, then I guess it's got to be a downloadable, cheaper game for the Switch. It can't keep being this AAA thing if it looks like that. That look is fine for the little handheld screen, but something's got to change. Okay, so the next two games on my list are not very popular games, but they're popular to me. I really like these games, and I'd love to see them continue. Fantasy Life. I got this game quite late on the 3DS, and I really enjoyed it. I've put close to 50 hours of time into this game, and really, it's limitless to what you can do with this game. It gives you so many options. I've only sort of maybe done a quarter of the things that you can do in this game, and I'm 50 hours into it, so there's so many things you can do in this game. I know there is a Fantasy Life 2, and for those of you who don't know, it is a mobile exclusive, and I'm not sure why that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I'm pretty sure it's only, I don't think it's even out yet. I'm pretty sure it's still in development, and it's only been announced for Japan so far. But Fantasy Life was a popular game. I'm pretty sure it sold pretty well. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it doesn't get a lot of attention. But I'm really hoping that they do give us maybe a port of Fantasy Life 2 on the Switch. I don't care if it's a small downloadable thing, but please continue the series, and please just give us Fantasy Life 3 for the Switch. Give us a big open world to explore and do all those great things that Fantasy Life did, only better with the graphical power that you can get from the Switch. The last game on my list is, I think it was number 2 in my top 10 games of the year for 2016, which might have been number 2 or 3. It is Rhythm Paradise Megamix. And the reason I put this on the list, I know it's not a very popular game, just like Fantasy Life, but it would be very interesting to see how this can change for the Switch. I'm even thinking now that maybe some games on this list, like Rhythm Paradise Megamix, only use the little handheld screen for the Switch. Maybe some games don't even go up onto the TV screen. Maybe there are only the very small downloadable experiences that you can only put on the handheld. So, that's something to think about as well. If people don't want to take advantage, or if they think it's a bit too much, or if they think that it's going to change the experience too much to put on the big screen, then they can just have the option to use the bottom screen. And maybe the actual TV screen can act as that bottom screen map kind of thing, or do different menu options, that kind of thing. So yeah, those are the list of games that I'm really excited to see be brought to the big screen, or return to the big screen. And I guess the same conversation can be had to games that have always been played on the big screen and are now available to play on handheld. And I guess that conversation can be delved more into as third parties start to get announced. I think it's more exciting to talk about then. So if Switch has a lot of third parties with it, lots of games that are only for Xbox One and PlayStation 4, then I think people will really start to talk about some of the things you can do with this console, because already people are thinking, well, it's not confirmed, but we're getting Skyrim for Switch, which is really cool. I mean, I almost held out waiting for Skyrim to get with the Switch, but I ended up getting for Xbox One because I just couldn't wait. But an experience like Skyrim, a massive open world RPG experience to take with you on the go, that is like a dream come true. I mean, that is why I bought the 3DS and I've got all these RPGs with it, because you can take these massive experiences on the go. That's something that really entices me and I guess a lot of other people. All right, the next topic I want to go into is ideas for new games. So these are some ideas that I thought of that Nintendo would be able to take advantage of, and I really think would help the console go a long way, and bring Nintendo back to being one of those that big company that everybody likes. Because I know there's always this battle between Xbox and PlayStation, and Nintendo has sort of always gone their separate ways from those two things, and it still has. But even back in the day when it was so popular, people weren't really arguing whether it was the best out of those two, whether Nintendo was better than PlayStation or Xbox. It wasn't really in the argument. It was always separate, and it was always thought of as just a really great console. I want people to say again, Nintendo is obviously one of the greatest consoles ever, but there's also PlayStation, Xbox. Which one is better out of them? Who cares? So some games I thought of. Nintendo have a lot of characters at their disposal that don't really get used unless it's sort of like a kind of mashup game, and I'm talking about Wario and Waluigi. These guys have never really been used in a very smart way. They're always in the Mario Kart games, Mario Sport games, those kind of games. I want to see Wario and Waluigi get their own game where they're working together. And it can be like a crime style game, I guess, a very Nintendo children kind of game though. But they could be sort of the baddies or robbers or something, set in the Mushroom Kingdom, that kind of thing. This is an idea that I didn't really come up with myself. I was listening to another podcast and I heard some people speak about this. And I think it could lead to so many different other things. If this game becomes popular, that this lets Nintendo use some of their other characters that they haven't thought about using, in sort of different ways, giving characters their own games. And an example of that from the Wii U was Captain Toad. Toad was given his own game for the first time, and I think it's the first Toad game ever, and that worked really well, because they didn't really copy any other style of game. Toad was given his own unique game that really could have been used on the 3DS as well. I think it would be a perfect 3DS game, but the worlds are so small in that game, and I think they really work well because they're so small but so challenging. They sort of go onto that same thing that Jake and I were talking about with those Zero Time Dilemma style games, where everything is right there in this little room, this little box for you, and it's challenging to work out, but it's all there right in front of you. You can do it. So the challenges and puzzles in that Captain Toad game were really intelligent, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully Nintendo giving some of their other characters their own games. And I don't want them to give Waluigi his own Captain Toad game. Waluigi in this Captain Toad setting. Waluigi and Wario have to have their own unique thing. And just like all these other random Nintendo characters that I don't even know of anymore. Lately in all these Mario games that are coming out, the new Mario Kart, the new Mario Sports games, there's all these random Nintendo characters that I've never even heard of before. And I think the way to solve that is for some of these characters to get their own games, and have their names as the title for those games, because people are, I guess, are losing interest with the lineup of Nintendo characters. People know the big ones like Mario, Luigi, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong. They know Toad, they know Yoshi, because these guys have their own games. So give some people give some more characters their own games. Even make a game with Peach or Rosalina. You can make a very girly kind of game with those characters if you want, targeted for girls. What's next on my list to talk about? So yeah, let's talk about those Disney games again. So I brought up before that Nintendo had a lot of those Disney Pixar games that came out. An idea that I came up with for a new Disney style kind of game is there's so many new musicals that have come out recently and they've been really popular. Tangled, Frozen, and a new one that's just come out called Moana. All these Disney musicals that are coming out, especially Frozen, are really popular with kids these days. And I think if they come out with their own Disney Rhythm Heaven game, Rhythm Paradise kind of game, that would be really cool. That would be a big seller for Nintendo. So if Nintendo could sort of get rights to the Disney products again, that would be really cool. So another one, Mario Sports Superstars, which is a game that is coming out on 3DS very soon. And this is kind of a mashup of all the sporting titles that Mario delivers. So it's got the Mario Soccer, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis. I think everything but Mario Kart. Because Mario Kart is so popular, I think, everybody would love to have that Mario Kart as a separate thing. But lately, people have been less interested in the standalone Mario sporting titles, the tennis and the golf. I don't know why, because those games are so fantastic, especially on the 3DS. I know the new Mario Tennis game on the Wii U got a lot of hate. Well, I never played that before, but it looks really good. But I think if this Mario Sports Superstars works for the 3DS, it could be a really good thing for Nintendo. But there is a lot of talk at the moment. People don't know whether this is sort of a mashup of really bad sporting titles, like the same thing that they do for the Olympic Mario and Sonic Olympic games. So I guess really button mashy kind of sporting titles that they haven't really put a lot of thought into, or are they their own standalone titles just put together in the same game? So what I'm talking about there is this a Mario Golf World Tour? Is this a Mario Tennis? I forgot what the 3DS version of it is. Is it that kind of game? Is it that kind of quality of game all put into the same title? If it is, this is massive for Nintendo, because I'm a really big fan of those sporting titles by themselves. So if it's all together in one, I mean, why wouldn't you want to get it? So if that works, I really think they should take that over to Switch. Mario Sports Superstars Switch, have all those sporting titles. You've got tennis, golf, you've got, what are the other ones in there? I know there's horse racing, there's soccer. Make the soccer like the Mario Strikers. I know that was a franchise that should be, people are asking to be brought back as well. So put them all together and have the actual quality of those standalone titles. That would be massive, and I think that would be a really massive seller for Nintendo if that game came to fruition. And the last game on my list is something a little different and something a little far-fetched. I don't think it's going to happen, but because Telltale is signed on to do some Switch games, I guess all their games that they make now will be Switch available, which is another one of those things which would be really cool to play on the handheld. We've never really played Telltale games on the handheld. So, I think it'll be cool if Nintendo can somehow get Telltale to do a Nintendo exclusive game. So it's a Telltale game set in the Mushroom Kingdom with all the Mario characters and everything, and you play as maybe a new guy that's come to the Mushroom Kingdom. Maybe you play as your Mii character or something inside this universe or something. So I think that'll be really cool, and it could be a really kid game as well. Like, lots of kids would be able to get into it. It's not just an adult game, because I know Telltale is really aimed at an older audience, but I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure about that Minecraft one that they did, because I didn't play that one. But yeah, I thought that would be a really cool idea that Telltale could do. So those, I guess, are my hopes and dreams for this console. We might find out a bit more tomorrow at the presentation. We might find out if some of my things will come to fruition later on in the year, or later on in its life cycle, so maybe 2-3 years from now. Hopefully all the things I've said in this episode come true, because I really think the Nintendo Switch will really have a strong, healthy lifetime with all these ideas I've just put forward. Wii U had some awesome franchises that came out on the Wii U that I'd love to see continue as well. It had Captain Toad, like we've talked about. Captain Toad is, I guess, to my knowledge, it's a big name now. It could become a franchise. We spoke about this game earlier on in our podcast, that it was, I guess, a game that we could see Captain Toad 2, Captain Toad 3, that kind of thing. So Captain Toad, yeah, it's a name that sells now. And Wii U started that. Another one is not Ukulele. I've lost my list now. Oh, here we go. Bayonetta. I'm pretty sure Bayonetta 1 may have come out on Wii, or it may have come out on Wii Wii U, but I know Bayonetta 2 was definitely out on Wii U. So this is sort of a newer franchise, and I'm hoping that Bayonetta continues as a franchise because it is a big seller. Bayonetta has just come to the Super Smash Bros. Lineup as well. It was one of the DLC characters. So people know Bayonetta. People like Bayonetta, and Bayonetta would sell. Just another one of those names to add to the list of franchises that are out on the Nintendo Switch. I'd love to see Donkey Kong Country continue. I know that's only just been brought back recently with Country on the Wii and Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. So, you know, it doesn't have to be 2 or 3 games brought out on the Switch. It does only have to be, you know, just one of them like they've done recently. So a new Donkey Kong Country game would be cool. I know 007 has been brought out. 007 Legends was brought out on the Wii U, and I'm pretty sure there's a GoldenEye game, and I don't know if that was on multiple consoles or just Nintendo. But anyway, GoldenEye was one of the most popular Nintendo 64 games of all time, and I'd love to see them maybe do another GoldenEye game, not like a reboot like that other one was that nobody liked, but maybe just have that name GoldenEye. It's all about having those nostalgic names that people want to return to, that are console sellers. So I think, yeah, having another GoldenEye game on the system would be really cool. Having the words Nintendo and GoldenEye in the same sentence would bring a lot of people back. Mario Maker was another game that was recently released and had massive popularity. Now it's come to the 3DS, and I don't know if I want another Mario Maker. I mean, Mario Maker is already there. Maybe there could be a Maker series, so the next one could be a Donkey Kong Maker, or it could be called Donkey Kong Creator or something like that. But, you know, it has to be one of those games along the same lines as Mario Maker, you know, for you to create. So it could be, you know, a Donkey Kong Country Maker, that kind of thing. But that's another one that came out in the Wii U that I hope continues. Pikmin. I know there's a Pikmin 4 yet to be announced, so that's another thing that's coming back, which I'm really happy about. Pikmin is another big title for Nintendo, which started on the GameCube. Pokken Tournament is another massive franchise, I'm going to call it, because I'm sure that there's going to be another one on the Switch. But my hope is, and I've said this before, that they change the name. I hope it just gets called Pokemon Tournament, and to bring back those old players who once played Pokemon Stadium, you need to create that nostalgia again. So I'm hoping they advertise it as something similar to Pokemon Stadium, because it is called Pokemon Tournament. It can be kind of you know, advertised as something similar to that. But instead of you know, pressing what moves the Pokemon can do, you control the Pokemon. You know, I want the advertisement to go on something like that. Star Fox was brought back to Wii U. Nobody really liked it, but I know Jake and I certainly did. We've given our review in one of our podcasts last year, and it's what we wanted. It's what everybody wanted, because people were asking for people to return to the old Star Fox 64 kind of thing, and that's what we got. But people complained, not sure why. But you know, that was brought back. I'm happy about it, and I'm hoping the franchise continues in that same vein. Splatoon is a new Nintendo IP that came out on the Wii U, and yeah, hoping that that continues with the Switch. You know, we could get a Splatoon 2 or a different kind of Splatoon game. Anything can happen with that series, but that is now, you know, that is now its own franchise. Xenoblade Chronicles, we've got 2 of those games now, so it's only a new series really. It came out on the Wii, then we got one on the Wii U, we got a remake for the 3DS, so a kind of a reboot thing. And that's another franchise I'd like to see continue, because it's one of the biggest RPGs, I guess, for the Nintendo console. And to see it come to the Switch as a handheld and big screen experience would be pretty awesome. The last name I've got on my list is Yokai Watch, which is massive in Japan. Not sure if it's that big in Australia. Like it's definitely not as big, but you know, it's huge in Japan, and it is slowly coming over here, I guess. I mean, we've got the TV show, we've got lots of Yokai Watch merchandise. I don't really know how well they sell, but I do know lots of kids are into it. Not as much as they are into Pokemon. Pokemon's still kind of winning that battle here over in the West. But yeah, Yokai Watch is a name that Nintendo has for themselves at the moment, which really I guess would help them over in Japan more than it does here. And the last, I've got 2 more games that I do want to talk about though, but these are games that are on every console. They get released on every single console: PlayStation, Xbox, even Vita. I think, I'm not sure about Vita actually. Nothing gets released on Vita, but I kind of want to see Nintendo try to get exclusivity with these 2 things. The first one is Yooka-Laylee. Yooka-Laylee takes us back to those old Banjo-Kazooie days, and it really returns people to the old 3D platforming days, and even the music is so nostalgic of those Nintendo days. And I'd love to see Nintendo try to get the company Playtonic, who did this Yooka-Laylee game, to do their next game as a Nintendo exclusive. So I hope Nintendo tries to bring back lots of these 3D platformers, because we haven't really seen a 3D platformer for a long time. Nintendo, all they did was release these 2D platformers on the Wii U, which is why I didn't get one for so long, and I still haven't got one, because they just kept releasing 2D games, and I'm kind of sick of them now. Let's bring back the 3D platformers. Playtonic are the people to do that. And the last thing is, I kind of want to see Nintendo try and get exclusivity to the Lego franchise. I have no idea who owns Lego at the moment, or if Lego own their own thing. So if you think I'm stupid at the moment, then that's fine, because this is far-fetched. Nintendo should try and get exclusivity for the Lego games, because Lego is so popular with children, and I think that's what Nintendo are missing right now. Nintendo are kind of aiming things at adults because of the nostalgic factor. Nintendo also, as well as doing that, need to get children back into Nintendo. Mums and parents need to start knowing that name Nintendo again, like they once used to. So getting children's franchises like the Lego series would be a big win for them. They missed out with Minecraft there, but I'm hoping they can do something with Lego there. And that's it. That they are all my hopes and dreams for the Nintendo Switch. And I did talk about last year that I wasn't really going to buy any games this year, because I've got so many games to play on my backlog, and I was going to see how long I could last in 2017 without buying any games. But we'll see tomorrow when I watch the Nintendo Switch presentation to see how long I can really hold out for. I'm hoping that Switch lineup, the launch lineup, gets announced, and I'm kind of gonna go from there. If I really can't resist, maybe I'll just go straight down and pre-order that thing as soon as it gets announced, because who knows what's going to get announced? We don't know. We don't know what kind of gameplay I'm going to see. My question is this: is the Nintendo Switch going to be so impressive? I mean, I'm a massive Nintendo fan. Is it going to be so impressive that I would actually get up and trade my Xbox One in? And I think the only answer for that is, if Nintendo Switch has all the third-party stuff that I care about, and it's able to play things like Netflix, because I do play a lot of Netflix on the in the Xbox One, and if it has all the Blu-ray player capabilities, that kind of thing, then yeah, I probably will trade my Xbox in and all my games that I own for the Nintendo Switch. Games that I really care about for the Xbox One are games like Mass Effect, Assassin's Creed, lots of the sporting titles as well, especially the Australian sporting titles, Don Bradman Cricket Rugby League Live. If it can get some or most of those franchises to come out on the Switch, then yeah, I have no reason to keep my Xbox, I guess. And it'll be one less console for me to, I guess, buy games on. I know it's going to look better on the Xbox, but really, having one console is a lot easier to handle than having multiple. So, and I don't know how long 3DS will be around for. I'm pretty sure it's got a couple of years left of life in it, but yeah, and then it'll just be Switch going solo, I think, from there on. So yeah, I'm very excited for the Nintendo Switch presentation, which will be starting in about 23 hours, or just under that. So you're probably going to listen to this episode after the Nintendo Switch presentation, depending on when I get it put up onto YouTube. But I will be definitely recording another episode straight after the presentation and hopefully getting that up as soon as possible as well. And I think that'll be another solo episode because Jake is away for the weekend. He's not going to be here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get my hands on Kian, so it probably will just be me sharing my thoughts and giving kind of a little review on the presentation. But until then, this was episode 39 of the 411, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later.